Welcome to the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Kenny Mack and myself bringing you our bye-week What's Trending episode. Kind of busy last week, didn't get a chance to link up, so we missed one, but we're happy to be back this week bringing you some content for the off week. We're going to talk a little bit about what's kind of been trending on X, just in terms of the Browns world, what people are talking about. We had the trade deadline come and go. Obviously, not a ton of noise for the Browns, not as much as expected probably. So we're going to see what the people are saying about that, give you guys our thoughts. Before we dive into everything, though, remember, if you want to get your voicemails on the show, head to the dogspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail on the drop-down menu. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the new content that we're putting out. If you prefer to just listen to the show, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, or Google. You can also find us on all the major social media platforms. Just search at the Dawgs Podcast. And lastly, if you're looking for more Dawgs content, head to jointhedawgs.com, become an official Dogback member on the Patreon page, get access to the private Discord, play fantasy football with us, hang out with guys like Kenny Mack and a bunch of other people that we just got to meet in person for the first time. Some of these guys this last weekend, it was the best part about the weekend because the game obviously was awful. But the night before the game was a good time. If anybody got to check out the live, we were at that backers party. Chomps was there messing with some of our gear while we were recording. We had a running back from Baldwin Wallace on there. So it was just a good time. So outside of the Browns game,
I still got to check that out.
Yeah, it was good. And John Nye made an appearance. Did a nice job. Apparently, you just got to get a couple beers in John. He'll talk on the show. So
yeah,
it was a good time outside of the game, unfortunately. But again, that's jointhedawgs.com if you want to become an official Dogback member. So Kenny, some of the things, obviously, no game this week. We had the trade deadline. So and then the other big news is probably Andrew Berry's press conference, bye-week press conference. Before we get to that, though, I do just want to talk about the trade deadline. Traded Za'Darius Smith. I think we got, a fifth and a sixth, and we gave up Za'Darius in a seventh?
Yeah, so the trade terms, the Browns received 2005 fifth-round pick, 2026 sixth-round pick, and the Lions got Za'Darius Smith, which I'm kind of disappointed about, and a 2026 seventh-round pick. And so a lot of people, from the negative standpoint, they're like, well, why did we give him away? And I don't know, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, I went through the trades, and I basically pulled them up here, if I can get my mouse over the right thing. So the highest pick that went out for the day, I think, was a third-round pick, and that was for Marshawn Lattimore. Everything else, guys, was fifth, sixth, seventh-round pick. There might have been one more there was a wild. You got to give me your thoughts on this. So Jerry Jones,
the Cowboys. I knew that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. Wow, fourth-round pick for Mingo, and the guy hasn't played yet, but I know he's got a lot of potential.
That's especially when you have two wins. They should have been sellers. They're going to have to pay Micah Parsons. They're probably going to have to pay a new coaching staff. I can't imagine McCarthy's going to be coming back. They're as big of a dumpster fire as we are. I couldn't believe they traded for a player and gave up a fourth-round draft pick for him. That shocked me.
Yeah, and again, like, that's a side note, but I mean, the point of the conversation, to get back to what we're talking about, though, I mean, there's not a lot of high draft picks that go out there. Guys are either dumping salary or they're moving on from someone that's going to, I don't want to say regress with age, but I mean, their best years are behind them, so maybe they're just moving on. I mean, ultimately, what we get from the Browns and moving on from him, I mean, he's under contract till 2025. So there's a cap charge of $9.4 million. I believe we've paid most of that, but we're getting out of the $1.5 million from next year, I believe, was one of the big selling points for that. So whatever they decide to do with Za'Darius, we are not in for that money next year. I'm kind of disappointed that he's gone based on, we'll get into the presser in a bit. The next 8 games really matter, and they're going to play better football is what I hear. He was one of the best defensive ends on the line. So I don't know about that, but maybe McGuire or Oko, the combination of those two on the right downs is going to be just as good, and we're saving $11 million. So, and getting a couple assets back.
So I wasn't shocked that that's all we got for him, because you can't say you're giving him away. Like you said, the highest draft pick was a third round for Marshawn Lattimore. The NFL trade deadline, it's not the NBA and it's not the MLB. There's almost never big time splash moves. I won't say never, but for every year we hype up the NFL trade deadline, and it's like this. And I feel like part of that is it's very hard to add a high profile player, especially maybe a skill position like receiver, and think you're going to get immediate results, high chemistry results right in the middle of the season. They got to learn the playbook. They got to develop chemistry with the quarterback. This isn't basketball. You can go play basketball with anybody, and maybe 30 games in, you'll look better than you did the first couple games. But if you're an elite level basketball player, you can play elite level basketball no matter where you are. Football is the most team oriented sport. You don't just add huge pieces in the middle of a season and think they're going to join your team and just drastically change. That's why maybe an edge rusher, we saw the Bears add Montez Sweat last year, and he transformed their defense. You can add pieces like that, but you're almost never going to see these big time skill guys get moved at the trade deadline and make an immediate impact. At least not that I know of.
No, it takes a couple of weeks to acclimatize to whatever offense, defense, or whatever you're going to be. Is mainly the terminology. You are going to do a lot of the same stuff. I was just more or less surprised they got a leader out of the locker room, but they did it with Amari anyways. Previous week, or when we beat the Ravens, they asked Garrett if he had any notion that Za'Darius was going to get traded. He basically said, well, I'm going to hang out with him all year, so no. And then this happened, right? So you never know when it's coming, but like I said, it's probably in the best interest of the Browns to move on, not because he was bad, not because he was a problem. All the guys loved him. Even on the offensive side, Joel Bitonio had good things to say about him, but they got some assets in return because there's going to be a problem with some of the salary cap. Even though we're on the plus side of it by a big margin, there's going to be a lot of someone eating that up next year.
What did we trade to get him? Was it a fifth or a fourth?
No, we got. Yeah, I got it here. Hold on. The Browns who made. Just give me a second. Here we go. So the Browns received a 6th and a 7th round pick in. Am I telling you this? I'm telling you this year's draft. I can't remember where I put it. I did put it down there because I wanted to tell you. I thought what we got.
I couldn't remember if it was.
We got 2 fifths.
We traded 2 fifths for Za'Darius, and we got back a 5th and a 6th when we traded him away. So it's almost like buying a car, driving it for a couple years, and then selling it back for the same or more than what you bought it for. The Browns did a nice job in terms of getting compensation. I didn't think we would get very much back for him, but just based on age, he's 33 years old. I'm pretty sure.
He'll be 30. He's 32. He'll be 33 next year.
Yeah. So just based on age, the fact that he wasn't going to be back next year for us anyways, it was smart to just go ahead and make the move. I'll be honest. I'm shocked that that's the only person we traded. I'm very shocked, because we have 2 wins, and we talked about this. Outside of this Saints game, I don't know if the Browns, I don't see many wins on their schedule this year. So I would have been doing, you don't want to tank, but man, this season's done. Make it so it's only one bad year. You know what I mean? If you can move pieces and get draft picks and anything you can do to help the team next year, so it's an immediate bounce back and we can be competitive again next year. Let's not stretch this into a 3-4 year rebuild. Let's just bite the bullet this year, suck it up, and be good again next year.
Yeah, I just found the trade. So the Browns received the 6th and 7th round pick in 2025. So this year, they got 2 5th round picks. So we got Smith, 6th and a 7th, and so they essentially gave them away for much needed cap relief. We essentially did the same. We basically got what is it? We got a Lexus and then we traded back like Toyota level, basically, is what we did. So it's kind of even Steven there. You know what I mean? So
I know Browns play-by-play guy, Andrew Siliano, he said, or I think it was him, or maybe it was even Rappaport, said we did well at the trade deadline, especially if you consider Amari Cooper. Both guys not going to be on the team next year. And we got a third for Amari, didn't we?
Yeah.
I was shocked.
So basically, our current breakdown is this. So we own our own picks, rounds 1 through 4 and 6. Then we got a third round from Buffalo for Amari Cooper. We got a fifth round from Detroit for Za'Darius Smith. We got a sixth round from Minnesota for Za'Darius Smith. And we got a sixth round pick for, I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the year, we did that Chris Smith kid, the D tackle.
Yeah.
We got one from Chicago for him.
That's right. I remember that. So, yeah, Browns have set themselves up nice. They got a lot of draft picks next year, including the coveted first-round pick is back. So, hopefully, we're going to talk about what a soft rebuild looks like, but hopefully that's what it is. It's a retooling, a soft rebuild. It's not full-on tank mode, and it's not, we're not looking to go 1-31 the next 2 years. It's one tough season, bounce right back, and hopefully be competitive again next year. So
yeah.
Like I said, though, we can move on from the trade deadline because that's really the only news Browns related. But like I said, I was kind of shocked. I thought Wyatt Teller had a chance to be gone. I was hearing Njoku rumors. I'm really happy Njoku didn't get traded. I was going to be very bummed if he was not a Cleveland Brown. So they kept the core intact, which I was kind of surprised. Kind of tells me that maybe they think to themselves that this doesn't need a complete overhaul. It just needs tweaked a little bit, and they need a quarterback. And I can't imagine Ken Dorsey's long for this team. I have a feeling this is going to be a one and done. I've heard some things on Cleveland radio that DePodesta might be on his way out. Like if anybody's going to get fired, it might be him. So, he
doesn't have a favorable record, that's for sure.
No, if anybody else in the organization was doing as poorly as him, they would have got fired a long time ago. I mean, almost all these decisions he's made, they haven't panned out. So, but yeah, I was kind of shocked about the deadline. That's all we did. But the other big news,
I was too. But I mean, the biggest thing is that I got out of the presser. The biggest note I made was obviously everybody's super disappointed. I mean, that's how we started off. Hey, we're disappointed. This sucks. But this is where we are. Big highlight though, he said the next 8 games we got to play quality football moving forward. And he didn't really go into any roster stuff. And he said they're making adjustments on the bye. And now I'm sure you've heard this. We've been talking about this for weeks now. What possible adjustments can you make other than not blowing coverages, tackling, being able to run block? You can't, how's this going to turn around? And then we've gotten better at this, pass and catch the ball, like the basic fundamental football stuff. What else is going to change unless Dickerson has some kind of trick up his sleeve where he's going to go, we're going to go back to the old way so the guys feel better. And I don't know if he has that in him or not, or he's come across the zone blocking. But I know with him, in the last, let's say 3 years that he was with Seattle, I mean, the worst he finished, I think, was with 7 wins, with the offensive lines he coached there. So what's the difference? It's just we fell off that hard. But I'd be interested to know what you think the adjustments we would have to make to say we come out of this. Actually, you know what? Tell me that and tell me what you think we need to come out of record-wise with this. We have...
I could tell you this right now. Offensively, it's not getting better. I think everybody needs to, if there are any expectations for this team in the second half, you shouldn't have any. At least that's my opinion. Like I said, unless we get the game against the Saints, I don't think the Browns are going to win another game this year. And I can say unless there's drastic changes, but if they're going to make drastic changes in terms of coaching staff and whatnot, they would have happened already this week. They wouldn't wait till the second week of the bye. It would happen right away. I think some of the offensive line coach, you hear people talk about like this team just missing Callahan more. No, I don't think so, because the Titans' offensive line sucks too. And like you just mentioned, Dickerson's a good offensive line coach. He had good offensive lines in Seattle, and we had Callahan last year and couldn't run the ball either. We did not run the ball well last year. Obviously, we didn't have Nick Chubb, but we were not a good running football team last year. And the offensive line was banged up. The offensive line's been banged up a lot this year, all except for the last 2 games. So I just think we're not that good. And it sucks to say, but I think guys like Teller and Posick have dropped way off. I think Bitonio can still play good football, but he's getting up there now in age. He's been on this team forever.
Get a lot of penalties too, man.
Jack Conklin, and a lot of the penalties, you're not moving your feet as well, so you're grabbing and holding because you're getting older, you're beat up. Jack Conklin's coming off a bunch of injuries. We're playing a guy who is a right tackle at left tackle because our first-round left tackle is a turnstile. I just think this roster, I think we way overestimated the talent on this roster, and I said this before on this show, that we fall in love with guys, like we draft them and we get all hyped for them, and then look how many of these guys that we let go and they aren't even on a team anymore, and they're guys that we love. DPJ, Browns fans love DPJ. Is he even on a team? I don't even know if he's on a team. I think he got released by the Lions or in training camp, or at least early in the year. Maybe he's floating around out there. There are Browns fans who want him to be our number 1. So I just think we way overhyped some of this talent, and I just don't think we're that good, to be honest. And I think a lot of it was we were banking on the fact that Deshaun Watson was going to be very good, and he was going to take a wide receiver core that wasn't elite, but because he was elite, he would make them look and play better, and we didn't get that. And because of that, it's just all falling apart.
This episode is sponsored by Morning Man Greens. Dog Pack, do you guys ever start your day feeling like you're dragging your feet before you even step out of bed? I know I do. And right now, I've got the ultimate morning fuel for you guys. Morning Man Greens is packed with 95 milligrams of clean caffeine from green tea and coffee bean extracts. Plus, it has over 75 vitamins, superfoods, probiotics, and digestive enzymes to power you up and improve your gut health. And if caffeine isn't your style, don't worry. They've got it available in decaf too, so you can choose which way you want to start your day. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are like me. I eat precisely 0 vegetables on a daily basis, so I know my body is lacking for those vitamins and minerals. I've been drinking Morning Man Greens for about a month or so, and I got to tell you guys, my body can tell the difference. I have more energy throughout the day, my digestion has improved, and I swear I've been sleeping better too. It's a green powder that you mix with water and ice, and I won't lie, guys, it does not look like it tastes the best, but I promise you, it tastes excellent. I keep saying it tastes like kind of a blueberry fruit punchish type of taste, and I was shocked, honestly, how delicious it was. That I personally feel the difference right from the first try. No more sluggish starts, no awful aftertaste, and no more energy crashes. Just the pure, sustained energy all day long. So for a limited time, Morning Man Greens is offering our listeners an exclusive 20% discount. Head over to morningman.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use the code DAWGS20 at checkout. That's DAWGS20. That's morningman.com/dogs, and use the code DAWGS20 to start dominating your mornings with Morning Man Greens.
I just don't see any change in sight offensively. I think this team needs about 3 to 5 new offensive linemen that can play solid. I think this team needs a number 1 wide receiver, unless Tillman is that guy, which he's had 3 really good games in a row now, so we'll see. We need speed like crazy. We don't have anybody that just scares you when he has the ball in his hands. That used to be Nick Chubb. I've yet to see if Nick Chubb's going to get back to that. It's hard to tell because the offensive line is so bad. I think you need speed there. They don't seem crisp. They don't come out of their blocks. They don't fire anybody. I mean, Teller can still pancake people, but they're not getting down the field. Like they're just getting pushed. You need some speed there. You need to be like quicker,
shouldn't maybe see offensive lineman speed's kind of like an oxymoron, so I can't maybe put that together, but you know what I mean? Like they have to be quicker, right? And exactly what you're saying, they were like, that was a question that was point blank asked. Everybody's going like, again, on the internet, that's one that you consistently hear. We don't have a great talent. Barry hasn't done a good job. And in his opinion, yeah, I mean, they're happy with some of the guys that they've drafted over the years that are in key positions. But I think what you have to look at, and you look at the Cleveland Browns, you look at last year when we clinched against the Jets, then we cleared the bench so we didn't have to play our starters in against the Cincinnati Bengals. And they motorboated us, man. They ran us over. And for whatever reason, since that game, we have never, ever looked good since then. You know, it doesn't matter if Joe Flacco started the playoff game, Deshaun Watson's playing, TTR's playing, Winston last week, he had one good game against the Ravens that are probably going to give up a ton of yards to the Bengals for Thursday night, right? And I don't know what happened, but something changed in that team. And it was on, like, the defense. Still, they were blowing coverages. They got knocked over all over the place. But it comes right down to that depth piece. We don't have it.
No, I think you're going to see what sucks is this is the highest paid offensive roster in football, I'm pretty sure. So that doesn't bode well for the future. So take me through some of the highlights of the press conference. What are people saying about it? The biggest takeaway I heard from it is he didn't really answer anything, and everybody's just kind of tired of the coach speak and the GM speak of not answering questions and just say, we got to play better, we got to coach better, blah, blah, blah. So what are the people saying? What are some of the highlights?
Well, I mean, the main thing is what's everybody going to get on? What's the number one question everybody wants to hear online? Quarterback. So Deshaun Watson, is he going to play next year? Basically, they just used, he's not well, so we don't know. We're not going to comment on that until he gets healthy, right? But I mean, you can tell by the tape. Like, I mean, he didn't look good at all. And now this is another injury that's above the shoulder injury. That's above. He had two knee issues. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. But I mean, he's getting beat up. And one of the things coming out of college is that he would take too many hits. And now he's taken way too many NFL hits, right? Are you gonna extend the playing time of DTR? That was another one. Guys, he's basically, they want the best opportunity to win. They want to see the best football now. I don't know if that's something that's going to happen with DTR. You're basically, you got to develop him, right? But he was also non-committal to Winston, right? And then again, it was, why did you guys trade for Deshaun Watson? And, why did you keep starting him when the offense was so bad? And he basically came out and he said, we're on the same page. I respect Kevin's decisions. Kevin wanted to start him, but, obviously they have discussions. So I can only assume it's with Barry's blessing, right? And then Mary Kay asked the big one, can Deshaun Watson come back and play here next year? And he said, yes, anything's possible. Like, that's so up in the air. Like, I can win the lottery. That's possible. I got to go buy the ticket with the right numbers. You know what I mean? But it can happen. And that's kind of the way he said it. So, I mean, I don't know. You take that $92 million over the next 4 years, because you say 4 years because he's got 2 contractual years. He has 2 dummy years in the salary cap, and you divide that by 4, and that's what you have, right? And they might be able just to pay him straight out and say, go home, and wouldn't want to move in another direction. The other thing is, you already touched on it, was the offensive tackle situation. So what does everybody on the internet want to say? Bye, Jed. See you later.
Yeah.
All that he stated was, finally, we got 3 tackles. We haven't had those 3 tackles since last year, second game or third game when we lost Jack. So now things are, I guess, going to be better. I don't know, man. And you already touched on the thing. Do you think the roster is as good as you thought it was? And I made a note. Ask Blake, and you're so far ahead that you already answered that question. So it's not as good. they're happy with what they have. But again, he does the same thing all the time. He goes, well, it's not the end of the season, so I'm not going to tell you because I'd only be reflecting on half the season, so I'm not giving you a fair evaluation, right? And then after that, basically, we're looking at the Ken Dorsey. So Ken Dorsey was an interesting one. He basically just said, very clear, we are very happy with Ken. What do you think about that?
I think despite maybe what people think about Andrew Barry and Stefanski and all this, they're very tight-lipped. Like, since they've taken over, you don't get leaks out of the Browns locker room like you used to. And just like Stefanski's not going to throw a player under the bus, Andrew Barry's not going to throw one of his coaches under the bus. He might already have his "you're fired" letter typed up and saved to his desktop, but he's not going to tell us, especially in the middle of the season. That's just not how you treat people that come and work for you in any profession, especially if you want to get other high talent level individuals to come work for you at some point. I mentioned this on episode, coaches talk, there's an inner circle of coaches there. If you just come out and say, Ken Dorsey's still here, but God, he sucks, wish he was gone, nobody's going to come work for you. You can't treat people like that in public. You got to keep stuff behind closed doors. That's why I get so frustrated when the people complain about Kevin's press conferences where he just says, we got to coach better, we got to play better. What's he supposed to say? So many people want him to come to the press conference and say, we suck, Jed sucks, he can't play like that, he's garbage. That's not, if he did that, we would be like, he's not coaching material. You keep that behind closed doors, you keep that in meetings. You don't let that out. You don't throw your players under the bus in front of the media. That's not what good coaches do. Trust me, he knows he sucks. He doesn't need to tell you that he knows he sucks. He's a football coach. He watches film. He knows he's not playing well. So, but he's not going to say that. That's not how you get good free agents to come play for you. So I don't understand exactly what people want him to say. It's almost like when we do this podcast and we suck every single week, we struggle with what to talk about. We say the same things over and over again. So, you know what I mean? It's the same thing for him. He could come out and be like, this was another week, and Jed doesn't touch a soul, and Deshaun can't see anybody, and we can't run the ball. But, he's going to take the ownership. I got to coach better. That way we can play better. I just don't know what people are looking for in these press conferences. I would be more disappointed if they came out and just started throwing people under the bus. Like, that's for what us fans do. That's not what the professionals do.
Your season's done. You've added no value to your players. There's might be guys that still, even despite the tape, want to trade for somebody at some point and give you something. So you stay professional. It means a lot in the industry. I mean, even like we can get into the coaches too, because we just talked about Ken Dorsey. I mean, Mary Kay addressed, basically, like I told you before we started, she said in a nice way, you guys think you're going to get fired, or you're going to see the rest of your extensions out. And like, what's he going to say? He's like, after this 2-7 season, I'm screwed. And the best thing, Mary Kay, is I don't have to talk to you or Tony anymore. So that will be super fun. And really looking forward to getting this season done. So I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like, what's he going to do? And I understand that they have to ask their questions. Like, I totally get it. But, I mean, I did like what he had to say about Stefanski. He said, to Kevin specifically, there are like 13 coaches in the history of the sport, so the NFL, that have won the Coach of the Year multiple times. 10 of them went to the Super Bowl and or an NFL championship. 6 of them won, and 7 of them are in the Hall of Fame. So whatever's going on with the Browns, I think Kevin, being the second fastest to do it, has some merit, But give me your thoughts. I mean, do you see him as a long-term fixture? Because the one thing that I don't like is take a look at Tomlin. If you take a look at a Harbaugh, and I'm looking within our division right now, these guys, they don't go, hey, you know what? We got to develop players. We're going to lose some games. They're not part of that mentality. Tomlin last year, what were they, 2-4? He said things are going to change and people are going to get cut. He didn't say who. He didn't say anything. Like, he didn't throw anybody specifically under the bus. But then all of a sudden they came back and they were 10-6. You know, the Bengals were the same thing. They came back with no Joe Burrow for a couple games, and they were 9-8. We can't do this. Oh, well, let's lose a little bit now. It's just a loser mentality overall. But tell me what you think about Stefanski's future and, you know, what you read online.
So to me, the longer it goes, the more I think him and Barry will be back. I don't think they want to completely restart everything again, because we can kind of talk about like a soft rebuild. Even though I think we might have overvalued some talent, I still don't think it's not deprived of talent. There's still pieces there, and some of the pieces you have under contract for a few more years. I think Kevin's a very good football coach. The biggest moves I would make is DePodesta would probably be gone. If you want to go hire, you know, you hear the term a football guy, you know, like AB's the analytical guy. Kevin's, you know, analytical. So if you want to go get a guy like people will get mad, like a John Dorsey, you know, something like that, like in a role what he has with the Lions to go along and help with the drafting and that. I think AB and Kevin are good. And I don't think you don't want to just blow it up because you had a bad, disappointing season. That's what bad organizations do. I'm not. If it goes so far off the rails where you start getting leaks, players are complaining in the media, they've clearly given up and aren't trying, then maybe you have to stop and think, okay, the guys lost the locker room, the players aren't playing for him anymore. Maybe we have to do, you know, a complete rebuild. But if you're not getting leaks, you know, you're not getting guys on social media posting rants about the team, you're not getting guys just blatantly quitting, and they're still playing for Kevin, I think you can 100% bring him back and try to fix it. I don't like to be the team that just, because we have a bad year, we just completely blow it up and go back to the studs. You know, even good teams have bad years sometimes, and they don't just fire everybody because of that. Look at the Niners. Shanahan's had some terrible seasons in San Francisco. Now people say, well, he went to the Super Bowls. Well, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to those Super Bowls if they would have fired him for his bad seasons. So there's something to be said about stability and consistency and having a consistent voice and presence in the building. So I'm not saying he's untouchable and he's perfect. I would like, if you're going to bring him back, though, give him control of his team again in terms of the offense. I don't know. Maybe it was his decision. He wanted to go get Ken Dorsey. I don't know. But, man, they look not right on the offensive side of the ball. And so if you're going to
they haven't looked right since training camp. So
if you're going to keep Kevin, let him have control of his football team so you can properly evaluate. And then if it goes off the rail again next year, then maybe you have to do the unthinkable. But as of right now, I don't want to get rid of Kevin Stefanski because I don't want to go back to the Ice Age. You know, I don't want to go back to 1-31 and fire a 2-time coach of the year because we had a disappointing season with a quarterback that, you know, he didn't trade for. He might have been a part of the pitch, but if your boss says, hey, we're going to go get this guy, you're going to do what what you're told. So I would bring him back. But that doesn't mean he's perfect. I think there's things he can do and he can work on, and we can still run a Kevin Stefanski offense, but maybe like modernize it. I don't feel like this. I feel like the problem with Ken Dorsey's offense is it puts so much on the quarterback. It's so quarterback dependent, and even a guy like Josh Allen was struggling to perform on a consistent basis in it because you're just asking the one guy to do so much. He's got to be point guard, you know, small forward. He's got to do everything. He's got to run the ball. He's got to make every perfect decision. It's all on him. Kevin Stefanski's offenses are historically about taking all that pressure off of the quarterback and dispersing it around the team. So it's almost like a clash of mentalities. Yeah. And the Browns don't have a single quarterback on their roster that can operate a Ken Dorsey heavy quarterback dependent offense. It was supposed to be Deshaun. It's clearly not. So I would move on from Dorsey, and I would probably move on from Paul DePodesta. I'd bring AB back. I'd let Kevin pick his offensive coordinator. Let's get some cohesion back in the building. Maybe bring in a football guy to help in terms of talent evaluation and all that good stuff when it comes time for the draft. But I would bring them back. And in terms of the roster, like a soft rebuild, we don't need a complete tear down to the studs rebuild. We just need to infuse it with a couple of explosive skill guys and beef up the offensive line a little bit. And obviously the biggest one's quarterback. But I think the wide receiver core, if Tillman continues to ascend, maybe he becomes a legit real life number one. All of a sudden your receiver core is probably still decent. If he does it, and he's going to be a high end 2 or a 3, depending on what Judy can do, you got to go get a legit number 1 receiver. I think you got to go get another running back, because outside of, we don't even know if Nick Chubb's going to get back to Nick Chubb, and we need speed at the running back position. Deontay Foreman's not it. Jerome Ford's not it. Pierre Strong's not it. We need a Jahmyr Gibbs type guy back there that's explosive to go with Nick Chubb's, between the tackles running. And obviously beef up the offensive line. The biggest thing is going to be where you draft and if you go with quarterback, and you have to hit on that pick. If you don't hit on the pick, all of a sudden what you think is a soft rebuild is going to turn into a complete redo, and we're going to suck for 5 years.
This episode is sponsored by Manly Bands. Dog Pack, it's hard to believe, but the holiday season is here. Ladies, treat your men, and men, how about treating yourselves? Manly Bands is having an early Black Friday sale, 30% off site-wide, plus you get an additional 25% off when you use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out. But don't wait, this sale will be ending soon. Guys, if you're getting married soon, you need a wedding band, or if you've been thinking about replacing or getting a second wedding band, Manly Bands is the best place to find bands made for men. Now, they've got your standard gold and white gold bands, but guys, they have some very unique materials and collections to choose from. Tungsten, tantalum, titanium, carbon fiber, even materials like meteorite, antler, and dinosaur bone. Yes, the bands are actually made from dinosaur fossils. They have rings made from Jack Daniel's whiskey barrels. They have a Fender guitar collection, a DC Comics collection, Lord of the Rings. There is so much to see. You just have to go to manlybands.com and use promo code DAWGS for 25% off your order. Manly Bands will send you a free ring size guide if you're unsure of which size you need, and every Manly Band comes shipped with a free silicone band so you can swap it out whenever you're working or playing hard. But don't wait, the early Black Friday sale won't last long. Get 30% off site-wide right now, plus an additional 25% off with code DAWGS, DAWGS, at manlybands.com.
You got to get somebody from Green Bay to tell us how you get 3 quarterbacks in a row for like 12 plus years, because I got Green Bay family fans and it drives me bonkers. I've had to go through 39 quarterbacks while they've gone through 3.
Well, I think they identify somebody who's going to fit their team and their culture and the way they run things. They draft them and they don't force them to play right away. I feel like
that's a huge one, man.
You know what I mean?
Huge.
That's why I've thrown the name Derek Carr out a little bit, because I feel like he's not going to be back on the Saints. So even if we draft a Cam Ward, a Shedeur Sanders, a Nussmeier from LSU, that doesn't mean they have to play next year. If you can go get Patrick Mahomes didn't even play in his first year. Okay? Like if you have to do what's best for your future, if you go get one of those guys, go get a veteran to play for a year, and even if that guy's not playing well, don't throw your quarterback to the wolves and destroy him before he ever even gets a chance to develop. Just be patient.
Yeah.
I compared it to the DCEU and Marvel on our reaction episode. One of them took 10 years and 20 movies to get to their historic culmination, in the 2 biggest movies of all time. And one of them said, "Oh, look how good they're doing. Let's just make the Justice League. Everybody will like it." And it was something.
Yeah, throw money at it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we need to start. We need to be patient. Not every movie in the Infinity Saga is great, but they were all building blocks, and they all led to the final piece. So there's going to be some bumps in the road if we have to go that way, but be patient. Don't listen to your fan base, because turns out we're fanatics. We're not football professionals. Don't listen to the media. Do what's right by you. I think this front office does a pretty good job of blocking out the outside noise in terms of they're not influenced by the Mary Kays and the Tony Grossies and that kind of stuff. But it just needs a little infusion of talent.
Dude, I think you basically hit the quarterback up. Like, I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, imagine if you can get Gentry from Boise State, you know, and if you can get, I don't know what you're going to do on the offensive line, because
offensive line.
I mean, Keller's you're gonna get another guy or guard, right? And then I would back up that tight end. I would back up that tight end spot and help Njoku out. You can spread Njoku out. He's got a lot of athleticism. Get a hardcore big blocker, and just, you know, so you can have that pounded out football. Because one thing that I don't like is, like, for some reason, Stefanski over his 4 years, there's a couple games we've lost. It was to the Saints and to the Raiders is what I meant to say. And there were games that were, you know, cold weather games, and for some reason we couldn't just bloody our nose and block the guy ahead of us and just run the ball. And you just play that old school, like, rugby scrum type football that wins you games sometimes because just the weather's bad. And we need to learn how to do that, you know.
Not for long.
Yeah, fair enough. Not in Cleveland anyways for long, you know what I mean? But it'll still come up at some point, or you will need it at some point because your quarterback went down or whatever it is. Like, you can't ever seem to get that way. But, I mean, in reading what I've read, I mean, like you said, quarterback is a huge con. Some of our depth pieces that are on rookie contracts might be a con at this point. But, I mean, one big pro that we have is defensive line. I might want to see someone take over for Za'Darius now that he's away. But if you take a look across that line, I mean, or across the whole defense, like, what would you change anything there? I mean, maybe another playmaking safety and kind of shake up that secondary a little bit. But other than that, you know what I'd really like to see? Kick returner. Because, I mean, we've taken JoJo Natson. You know, we've taken, who was the other guy that we got from Miami? And we've tried so hard to get this return game going. And for some reason, everybody blows a patella, blows their Achilles. Like, you know, and I don't want to joke about these injuries. They're awful, gruesome injuries. And they happen in preseason. And then we're stuck with guys that are mediocre on the return team. So I'd love to see a great return team. I think Vitrone adds a lot of value, even though the guys are kind of missing up on the tackles. But, I mean, that would be a big help. And then, I mean, last year we won a lot of close games, and this year we've lost a lot of close games. So it's not much in the margins are thin in the NFL.
No, for sure. I think defensively we're fine. I would draft a corner every single year because who knows how long Denzel Ward's got. These guys are getting injured all the time. I think the biggest thing with defense, you got to get Martin Emerson back to playing like Martin Emerson. He's fallen off hard this year. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if we're just not getting pressure as quickly, so he's being a little bit exposed in the man coverage. Like, he's being asked to cover a little longer than he was last year, but he went from a guy who should have been a Pro Bowler, who was a top corner in the league last year, to he's been a liability in our games at times. It's been rough to watch because we're all super high on Martin Emerson. Defensive line.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that guy.
No, and I think I would love JOK. Don't get me wrong, but it would be really nice to have a stud linebacker, a Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis. Obviously, there's only one Ray Lewis, but you know, a Luke Kuechly, a guy in the middle of your defense that is just a playmaking linebacker. You have to always know where he's at on the field. We've never had that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, that is, to me, would be huge. I would love to see something like that. Offensively, like, get the quarterback. I think you can address offensive line in your middle to the late rounds and still find good talent because there's a ton of linemen. There's, you know, there's way more linemen than skill guys. And I also think you can address that in free agency pretty easy. So, speed. I'm infusing. You got to find speed. Scary guys that have when they have the ball in their hands, and obviously hit on the quarterback. So, but I wouldn't blow it up.
Well, you know what I was going to tell you. Is I'm on board with Carr. I don't get the hate on bringing him over here. I kept forgetting to tell you that, and I think he'd be a great bridge over. I actually wanted to draft him instead of that idiot Manziel, and way back in the day.
Could you imagine?
Even though I think maybe. Go ahead.
I was going to say, could you imagine if we get rid of Dorsey and you put Derek Carr in like the traditional Kevin Stefanski offense? He could play good football for you. He's played high-level football, and he's played in dumpster fires with no offensive coaches for his entire career. I'm not saying he's a future Hall of Famer, but he is perfectly capable of being a high-level bridge quarterback for a season.
There's some guys that just develop late, and that's the way it is. I mean, you get a guy and he's maybe never been in the right offense, and the way that you have to progress through Stefanski's offense. I mean, we've seen it time and again where there's three receivers open and nobody can get somebody the ball for whatever reason. Right? It was either Baker or it's been Watson. Even Winston missed a couple last week where. I remember being up in the audience, like at the actual game, and he had a quick corner out, and then he had a hard crosser. The crosser was way open down the field, and he didn't go for it. So I don't know if he was more worried about the pass rush than he was with the Ravens, or he just wasn't. They just didn't dial in the right thing. But Stefanski can definitely scheme them open, man. So, I mean, there's potential to be had.
No, I would. That's a guy I would look into, not only because I think he could play well for you, but he's a very good locker room guy. Like outside of Michael Thomas, nobody ever says a bad thing about Derek Carr. I'm pretty sure he has the most fourth quarter comebacks in the NFL of like any current active quarterbacks. So I think I don't know. That's a name that I've been tossing around for a couple of years now that I've been high on in terms of coming to the Browns. I'm not saying he's our long-term answer, but if you're going to draft a young quarterback this year, I don't want to have to play him right away. I would 100% get rid of Ken Dorsey, let Kevin run his offense, and bring in a guy like Derek Carr to bridge it for a year. I think you could get good football out of him for a year. If he can turn around Joe Flacco's, at 45 years old, he can get high-level football for a season out of Derek Carr. So that's just kind of my thoughts. That's kind of what I thought about the bye week, the press conference, and what I think the Browns need to do going forward. I think I have zero expectations in terms of wins and losses. My expectation is we will lose every game. There's just
their expectation is they're going to see their results. Like they want to see. I mean, what else are you going to say in the press conference? But I mean, I didn't feel like they were panicked. AB is AB when he does his thing. He answers very professionally. He had answers right away. He wasn't, it didn't seem like he was trying to hide anything. He's like, all the answers are here. We just got to play good football. But I mean, I just don't know how you do it, but maybe the break helps him out. Maybe a locker room leader like Za'Darius, maybe that sends a message. Hey, nobody's job's safe. They had nothing to do with Za'Darius to make an example, and they got rid of the guy, one of the older guys, with some salary, and I just need to see some football. I need to see the Browns do like the rest of our division does. You don't give up. You win some games at the end, and you make it hard for everybody else to get in the playoffs if you don't think you're going to be in the playoffs. That's what you got to do. That's the old AFC Central. That's what they used to do. And, we lost our team, and now we got to find that mentality back. And old boomers like us have been waiting for that, man. You know what I mean? We've been waiting for that.
I see a lot of disappointment in your future in the next 8 weeks.
I've experienced a lot, so there's fear out there. It'll help.
But we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But I would be more shocked when we win games than when we lose games, and it's win-win for us. We would go on and we start to look pretty good, cool. If not, we end up with a top 5 draft pick. So it's win-win for me. I'm happy no matter what, I guess. We'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. It's getting late. We appreciate you guys hanging out with Kenny and myself during the bye week, watching these episodes. We enjoyed doing them for you guys. Be on the lookout later this week. We're looking to link up with another podcast to put out an episode. Some guys we met at the Browns backers party, so be on the lookout for that later next week. We'll probably have a preview episode for you guys for the Saints game where we talk about how we just want the offense to not suck, like our normal preview episodes. So you don't want to miss it. Make sure you have the notification bell tapped on YouTube so you don't miss any of the episodes that we put out between now and then. But again, we appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys sometime later next week.
Let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. Dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.